Oh, okay. Yep, we're here. Thanks,
Okay.
Emily.
All right. Well, happy Friday the 13th, everyone. I don't believe there's anybody. Yes, there is. We have one new guest. If you could, Emily, introduce yourself and share your role with us.
Yeah, so Stacy asked me to join. I am the communications director for the commission. So I'll be able to join for the first 30 minutes, but then I have to hop off for another meeting.
And that's fine. So what I've done is I've rearranged the slides in the agenda. So we've got you up next. Well, actually, I'm going to share a few things about marketing and branding, and then Emily, let's co-tag team this, and you can share CHE's policies and things like that. So with that, let's get it going. So marketing and branding. So these are the questions we posed is, does CHE have a style guide that you wish to use when we start marketing and branding this statewide initiative? And then does CHE want to co-brand on everybody's marketing pieces and things like that? And you may not have thought about it yet, but it's something once it does go up on the Clearinghouse 2.0, and we have this repository of resources. So we do have time you have time, your office, to work on it some. And now are there color schematics that everybody desires? Is it traditional red, white, and blue? I've got the flag there. A picture of your university or in honor of our veterans. These are just some that I've grabbed off other sites. Are there any alignment opportunities with other initiatives like the Collegiate Purple Star Initiative? I didn't know if that would be something. And what is deemed necessary out of all these things that we're creating and developing? What is deemed necessary for the marketing and branding? Any need for PDF or hardstock print materials? In other words, for your recruiting events or any university-sponsored workshops or conferences? And then how much in resources does marketing and branding initiative require? So I'm going to kind of turn that over to you, Emily, if you kind of want to just share with us some thoughts while we take notes.
Yeah, so we do have a style guide at the commission, which I'm happy to share if needed. Um, I think, and I talked briefly with Stacy about this, that because the commission will be having multiple credit for prior learning initiatives to kind of create its own logo within that, instead of, very specific ones like the MCPL, because we already have the Collegiate Purple Star and all of that. So I think that's probably the direction that we'll go, is having just a credit for prior learning logo just under the commission. If there's any like alignment, or joint marketing materials, we're happy to lend our logo to that, whether that's the commission's logo or this new CPL logo, depending on, I think, the time frame of when you guys would be wanting that logo developed by. And yeah, we're happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
just to add on to Emily's comment, right? Because there is this broader push, like, and of course TPMA has been involved in it, and several of you on the call have been too. Yeah, I didn't know how granular we wanted to get with each specific type. And I know Steve maybe could speak to this too, but there was a challenge trying to find the right color scheme, even for the Collegiate Purple Star, because we found out colors mean a lot in the military. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the commission's logos for our initiatives like 21st Century Scholars or CTE, we do very basic colors like gray and white. So they can kind of fit into whatever you're using. And they don't really clash with anything, and they look good on dark backgrounds, they look good on lighter backgrounds. So I think something like that we could do that's pretty simple, but it gets the point across of, this is a credit for prior learning initiative, would work really well.
Okay, let's hear from the group, especially for those of you that have very mature military credit for prior learning programs. What are your desires? Anything from Ivy Tech or Purdue Global?
I believe Oh, my personal opinion would be just to leave it up to the marketing experts. So I don't really have a strong
Okay.
opinion one way or the other.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing as Kelly. I think depending on what the intention is to absorb it onto our own sites or our own materials, I think there would be an expectation that it like we would just use whatever you gave us and that it wouldn't need to be designed around the expectations of any individual institution because all institutions would be using it in parallel and that works with this type of thing.
Yeah. I think it's also an advantage for the students, you know, when they're out there and they're seeing the same material, you know, at every institution in Indiana, it holds more weight. It really does represent that this is a statewide initiative. How about resources? Do we need anything on resources? Imagine you all have your own marketing departments on your campuses. And, you know, with this being a new, not quite, for some of you, it may be a new initiative. For most, it's not. But will they expect any resources or?
Well, I'll just comment, and I don't know if other institutions feel the same way. It is sometimes difficult to get the attention of our marketing folks and get on their roadmap because they are pulled in so many different directions. So I think as long as there's a clear expectation of what we're supposed to achieve, like this is still a little bit fuzzy, right? And it will get clear as we figure out what we want to do. I think what would make it easier for us to get those resources would be a clear expectation expressed from the perspective of the commission. Like it
Okay.
was how, for example, we got a TSAP website was like, we were like, we have to have it. The commission said we do. So having some type of an expectation about what we would be required to do would simply help us in negotiating those resources and getting their attention.
And I think with as much work that we do as a work group and at least coming to a consensus of what it is we need for marketing tools to help this initiative expand and grow in capacity, I think it's an easier sell for you to take back. We've got most of the work. You guys can handle the schematics and the CHE. That I imagine, Emily, do you have a monthly committee or bi-monthly committee that meets with all the institutions around marketing?
No, we don't really do a lot of joint marketing initiatives with the institutions. We most of our marketing is under the Learn More Indiana brand for students.
Okay.
It's not saying we can't do something outside of that. That's just where most of our marketing goes.
And Learn More Indiana is primarily geared towards the K-12.
Yeah.
Okay. I had another question that I was thinking about and this came to me yesterday. So transfer in, is this, you know, because, you know, the terminology transfer in and a lot of military for credit sites call this, instead of credit for prior learning, many call it transfer credits because of the JST. They start with the JST with those students. I didn't know that if, you know, if that's something to be thinking about as well, or is that just something that'll, you know, it could be duplicated in both? It would be, I'm not quite sure where transfer in and then the credit for prior learning fits with CHE. Because transfer in is your site, correct? Yeah.
Yes, that is, sorry, Stacy, what are you gonna say? Yeah, Transfer In is our site, and it has the CPL stuff on it right now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's more, I mean, even though that is somewhat student facing, it's really utilized by a lot of our institutions and high school counselors. So it has a much broader audience than, than Learn More.
Okay. And do you have Jessica, is there a military support on that transfer in?
There is, it just hasn't been updated in quite a while.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's just, it's good to know these things and, but it's food for thought for your office to work amongst each other at CHE on future marketing and branding. So with that, I'm going to share some some other, this is currently at Martin University. They have a PDF, a printout that the students can download. It looks like it's a shopping cart, but you notice there's nothing, it doesn't cost anything. But they're the only one that that participated in the assessment survey that provided marketing materials when they were asked that question this past June. So I didn't know if the rest of you just don't share your marketing materials, but you do have them for your recruiting events and workshops and conferences. But here's one that we did find based on the assessment survey that Martin University in Indiana, and it does speak to military, but it speaks to all of the populations that can take advantage of credit for prior learning. Just food for thought what we found. In other states, we have, this is Arizona State University. They use infographics, at theirs, 31 is the average age that undergrad military students. There's 5404. They put their numbers up there, which says something as a potential student that's looking. No, there's a lot of vets there on that campus. Southern New Hampshire, I more or less, because they do the logos or the little icon, there's a name for these, I'm not sure, but dedicated military supports the badge, the money 30% off tuition if you're military. They have over here the military friendly school 2425 logo. That must be something specific for Indiana. Dallas, do you know anything about that? And then they have, this is the logo of their Commission for Higher Ed. So, but it's on, so each have their own page in New Hampshire, but each one has the logo of the state if it's a state supported initiative. And then they have this military friendly school, which could be similar to your Collegiate Purple Star.
Yeah, so that military friendly one is
Mhm.
from GI Jobs and Victory. They are the ones who have socialized this across the nation, and everybody was striving for this badge. This is why Collegiate Purple Star came along, because the badge now is almost worthless because everyone does it. Okay. And it's a very low bar to get into that club.
Okay.
So
That's
the
good.
Collegiate Purple Star would be fantastic there.
Yeah. And then maybe a CHE logo here, or, with the hyperlink to transfer in, maybe Jessica, I don't know. But, on each, and so then you could be somewhat co-branded. Here's another one. They had Best Online U.S. News Veterans Programs 2024. I don't know if any of the Indiana, I didn't see this on any of their military websites, but here they have a best, what the power of the infographic here is, it's military. It's got all the military designations up, badges upstairs here. And then tuition benefits, they have a tuition calculator. E-campus military grants they offer, application fee waivers, Veterans Service Resource Center, and veterans certifying officials. And then down below, I couldn't get a snapshot of all of it, but it goes into the actual where you could take your military credits and sample career pathways or academic pathways that where you could utilize, like the criminal justice, healthcare, and cybersecurity. So just sharing, these are some samples that, that we thought looked pretty good, but we didn't see on Indiana, and just food for thought as you go forward. Any other thing that you'd like to add, Emily, for the group before we let you go?
No, yeah, I think the Collegiate Purple Star logo could serve as kind of a seal of approval on any schools that fit that criteria.
Mhm.
With our logo for the commission, because we only really work with, I mean, we have partnerships with private universities, but we work with the public institutions. So I don't think I see our logo as a commission being on anybody's site, but the Collegiate Purple Star, I think, could be on, whatever institution meets the criteria and works with Steve on that. So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And we do have quite a few of these resources available on Learn More. They're just not in one cohesive page. So there's not really like a military affiliated hub page, but they are kind of scattered throughout the other resource pages. For example, like the scholarship page has specific scholarships for military affiliated or like families of military. And we do have like a tuition calculator, but they're not all on one page.
Okay.
So that could be something that we can include from a resource standpoint or on our end, consolidate in a way that makes use.
Yep.
But I was going to say, any CPL in general, maybe that's tied to the statewide model policy guidance, right? This initiative is this thing that everyone's trying to strive towards because we had input from both public and private.
Right. Your new 2.0, would have a military page. You want to be mindful of the 6 clicks, or really, Kale will say 3 clicks. If they can't find it in 3 clicks, you've lost them as a student. I'm more of 6 clicks and then I'm done. But, I do research, so I tend to go down rabbit holes a lot. But yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, Stacy, is when you get ready to launch your Clearinghouse 2.0 to be mindful of, having everything on a one-stop shop. And then even on the military, having specifically the Google site that we're playing in now, the sandbox we have as using it as a repository. But that's all the resources for the military component of this initiative. But you will have resources, and you do already, on the broader scope of credit for prior learning statewide initiative. So yeah. Anything else any of the institutions would like to add as we go forward and think about the marketing tools? So this is going to be a homework. So next week, and before we lose Emily, I want you all to be thinking about what are some tools that you want to see in a military CPL toolkit out on the big state Clearinghouse 2.0. And then how do you want, another question would be, how would you want your university to be, say someone is at the state site and they're not sure which institution they want to go to yet or haven't enrolled. How do you see your institution being represented on the CHE site as part of this statewide initiative? Okay, that's just 2 questions, and we'll put those in your homework assignment when we do the recap for next week. Well, Emily, thank you for joining us today. We got a lot of good notes and food for thought, and everybody's thinking now. So let's get back to the agenda. And we'll do the recap of last week's meeting. So we went through the ambassador talking points, and you gave us quite a bit of suggestions. So I believe this morning you received a draft of that. I will say that it's still a struggle for me, Allegra, the program versus initiative. In most states, it's a statewide program, but I know, and I understand how it's, because I'm crossing over and I'm thinking of program versus initiative. So I'm doing my best and trying to take out program wherever it's at and put in initiative. I'm just going to have to warm up to it. We talked a lot about the CPL Directory of Program Ambassadors and how do you want to see that, in the Clearinghouse 2.0. And a lot of good points were made about many of you are administrators of the program, but you don't speak with the public side. In other words, the student facing side. You wouldn't talk to a military student and advise them or, on specifics with admissions and enrollment and financial aid and things like that. So I think we decided to put that in just this Google site repository for now, and it'll come back and be revisited. But you did like the other 2 types where your university, there was a breakout of university and a brief description of what each institution does for military students, and then a hyperlink to that page, and then your respective page would designate who speaks to the public side of that. We spent a lot of time around the military credit crosswalks to course programs of study. It is a great need, and it is very enticing for a student to engage with your campus, and a great reflection of this is why you want them to come to your campus. And so thank you, Allegra, for sharing yours and your slides, and we're going to put those out there in the resource. So that was just a recap of what all we did in our hour last Friday. Next, I want to know who attended the 11th and 12th yesterday and the day before Louisville Mid-South ACME, and if you could provide your feedback and takeaways and aha moments. Who wants to start? Dallas, did you attend?
I most certainly did.
You
I would like for
presented.
Steve to jump in there too. He was there also. We had some folks from Indiana Wesleyan and Indiana Tech. I'm not sure. I don't think Ryan is on the call today. He was or is currently the vice president for the association, and they elected a new vice president that will start in January.
What a sucker.
Walked right into it, right?
Ryan's here.
Oh, hey,
Ryan's
there's
here.
Ryan. You got anything you want to share?
I mean, just a short overview. We had a lot of great presenters across DoD, the veteran space, things like that. We did do a few things outside of, military and veteran education, but it was a really good conference, in my opinion. We actually had, I think, the number 2 or number 3 guy from DoD, Vol Ed, was there and talked about some of the initiatives and things like that they're working on. But all around a great conference, and congrats to Dallas for his new position.
Steve, anything you want to add to that?
I think it was a great opportunity. We got to meet some different people. I got to hear some things. It was nice. Dallas presented the same thing he did for our CPSI Lunch and Learn, but there was a little bit more time so we could kind of slow down and get into more examples. And so that was nice to get into that side and hear more of the people's questions and him go into more detail with some of the answers. And it just shows that there's a need for this, that people, as much as we talk about it, there's still tons of questions. And it's going to, my takeaway was there just needs to be more educational sessions. We need to keep talking and bringing different people together and going over this, because it affects so many different people within an institution, and they're not always talking to each other. And we need to kind of break down those barriers. So that was kind of my takeaway from listening to Dallas present again.
And that kind of launches us into the fact that in October, we're going to be talking a lot about the Veteran Hub and the ecosystem of the Veteran Hub within the higher ed system of each of our schools. And the dotted lines that we need to make those connections and make the learning, because it is interesting information. There is turnover. We need to constantly have this CPL and MCPL training going on, because it's hard to grasp it. And even when you think you have it, there's always another nuance to it. So that's what I liked about this conference. And, they are pressing forward. Ryan is pressing forward with bringing Indiana into the Mid-South Conference to where it will be Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And I think that is still the direction you want to go, right, Stacy? I don't know.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm like, sure, why not? Let's do it.
It'll be. So one of the things that Steve and I talked about during the discussion times that we had, the training that we talk about needing to be done, this is a place that it can be accomplished. Not only that, we can bring in national level individuals who want to come and talk about this, because the key to ACME is that they are the regional expression of CCME. And CCME, if you get a chance to go to it sometime, I recommend going once every 3 years. But wow, there is just so much information and exposure to the high end of military education at CCME. Kelly, would you agree with that statement? Kelly Circle? Yeah, she was there last year, and some of the others have attended. Allegra, I think you've attended too, haven't you?
Not yet, but hopefully
Okay.
soon.
Okay. It's a little bit more expensive. This conference is very easy. It's in our backyard somewhere. As a matter of fact, Ryan, I'm going to throw this out there for you. There is an initiative, if we can get Indiana on the list, to have this regional conference in Indiana next year. So there's a thought.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. That would really help expand and build capacity for you, Stacy, for this initiative. Would anybody else like to add anything? Okay, moving along. So you reviewed, I'm hoping you had time this morning. If not, I apologize. So the draft ambassador talking points. We use the previous approved ambassador talking points from the big initiative, and then just removed program out of there and put in initiative everywhere we could find out. But in my notes, I had from last week is that you wanted to address the equivalencies and bring them more up front. And then as well as you wanted data to support both TESS and ACE military guides. So we've included that. More specifically in these 4 bullets, number 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 is where we've done that. If you could all take a minute and look at those on that draft that was sent to you this morning, and let's open it up for any discussion, but I'd like to walk away today that we have consensus on this or any edits we need to make. And this is one thing we can check off on our list that this work group accomplished, and that's the initiatives talking points that will go into the resource as a tool for each of you to take back and utilize on your campus. We did keep the graphs, the infographics on the last page from the previous, because it speaks to the larger initiative, but it's still very robust and important because you're talking to faculty that not only have veteran students or military affiliated students in their courses, but they also have the traditional students and the adult learners in those same courses sitting next to those students. So this is a nice blend of both initiatives, but more specific to your needs.
Dawn, I'm not sure that they actually received anything this morning. I got an
Okay.
email from you, but it was to Dallas. It was to TPMA folks. I didn't catch it soon enough to move it
Okay.
forward to the group. I can do that now.
Okay. All right. I think I sent it. It was probably 4:15 my time, so that would have been 5:15 your time last night. I know you were traveling yesterday, and I just I saw it come across, and so I jumped up and got back in here and fixed all that for you. So she'll load it in the chat here.
One of the things that I had, and it's only because I got to listen to Dallas speak again yesterday, but he is, and I'm going to let him talk about this in more detail if he needs to, but he keeps talking about through the MCPL about it being experiential learning. And I didn't know if we wanted to try to incorporate that word somewhere in this, because he talks a lot about how it's a different kind of learning, and that word kind of separates it in the mind of other people. So just my random thought.
And of course, I always have something to say. The JST calls it military experience, and we always need to keep in mind in the CPL world, experience does not equate learning. Experiential learning equates credit recommendations or learning. So staying focused on that and using the right terminology, because there are people who will pick up if you say experience and they'll go, well, experience, you can do the same thing over and over and over and still not be right. But experiential learning says you take what you have, the experience, the concrete experience that you've had, reflect on it, and then come up with a better way or a different way, elevating the learning to where you're constantly doing an upward spiral.
Yeah. I also had a note that, Stacy, that you mentioned last week to make sure it's faculty driven and faculty researched and recommendations. So I think we've got that where I think it aids faculty in trying to grasp and understand what this is and what it isn't. Because I think back to what Dallas was saying about experiential learning, that was the biggest piece that a lot of our colleges and institutions here in Missouri struggled with, is understanding what experiential learning is. And they all felt, many of the institutions didn't do portfolio-based. They didn't feel confident enough in doing portfolio-based evaluations. They felt that if it's just on-the-job training, then they need to take an assessment to demonstrate that they've acquired those competencies for that coursework before they would award the credit. But it's a good point. But for military, the evaluations, you have all these other evaluations and credit recommendations that have been done many times over and over on the same courses across the country. And you have that advantage by utilizing these tools. I'm going to give you all a few minutes to look at the document.
Yeah, I was having challenges downloading and attaching, and so I did forward it via email.
Okay. Something I just, when I was preparing this and working on these talking points, is TESS has over 7,700 colleges that utilize TESS. And the reason their number is higher, I believe, is because TESS is a system that's designed not just only for military affiliated students, it's the entire student population. So when you have staff that utilizes one system, it didn't make sense for them to use ACE military system and upload twice. And that's when I had an aha moment. Well, this is why we use TESS for those that do. Whereas ACE is strictly, it's a military. But I like those that are using both. They may not be uploading in ACE, but they're looking and utilizing the ACE tool and looking at those recommendations. So I think it makes your credit award decisions stronger.
So one thing that I would find helpful, and again, I hadn't taken the time to offer a recommendation specifically, but as we think about all of these different points, I mean, you can group some of these around a specific, the bottom line is, technology is our friend, right? For those, and we can leverage what we have to really optimize our use of it, CPL or awarding of CPL. But maybe a recommendation might be, as we go through these and maybe expand upon them, grouping them under a subheader or just something quick that we can pull if we know someone has a question.
Right. Okay. Why don't we do this for time's sake today? Why don't you all take this next week and go through the draft? And we'll just take a quick few minutes next Friday and revisit this. But get your edits into us like by Wednesday, if that's possible. So we can incorporate everything and do a final draft and send it back out before Friday's meeting. And then we can build consensus around it at the next meeting. Does that work for everybody? Okay. All right.
Dawn, is this something that can be in the Google site to be editable,
Yes.
or is everything there locked down?
Absolutely. We can, I need to ask Dallas, can it be editable, or do they need to download it and do track changes and put it? I don't know, Dallas, who all has, I think there's just a few of us that have editing to the site, correct?
Okay, I'm going to check to see if I can open that particular page to where folks can do editing. All right. I think I can do it. I'll send out a note. And what will happen is it'll be like using a shared site. And you'll go in, you'll open the document, you'll be able to edit and then close it, and it should save your stuff. So we'll see. I think I can do that. And
okay.
I was just going out there to do it when you said, hey, can we do this? And so I may have an answer for you by the end of this meeting.
Yeah. So that's up next is the Google site. So
Okay.
we didn't get to spend a lot of time on it last week. And so I wanted to make sure that Dallas, you had a lot of time today to just talk to us. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to share your screen. Okay.
On it. Okay. Here we go. This is the way you're looking at it right now is how you would look at it if you went out to the site. Okay. The last thing I'll show you is what it looks like behind the scenes where you can do editing. So here's the challenge. The reason we're not opening the whole thing up to everyone to be able to edit is you could edit something out that you're not intending to. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you'll notice, I think you can see my little pointer moving on the screen, right? This pop out, when you click on that pop out, it should allow you to go to the document to make edits to it. All right. And we'll just see how that goes. I'm going to test it, see if it works for you. That will allow everyone to make edits to things. I have already put the talking points in here. If I can find it. You know, sometimes it's hard to find your own stuff.
Yeah.
And
Is it local institution resources?
I would think it is. That's
Yeah.
the directory. Oh, I bet it's okay. So it is on this page, local institution resources. Scroll down and there are the talking points. All right. It'll change just a little bit. I would prefer to leave it to where you can manage this page, but I think I'm going to have to take you to the actual Word document to be able to do it. But we've got these out here. We will massage this as you provide input, and we'll make agreements on that. We'll add information. So that is out there. We keep adding to that area because there are a lot of resources out there. But let's start back at the home page. As you go through this homepage, you're going to see all the documents we've been talking about over time. I'll take off the Mid-South upcoming event that it's done, but I do want to highlight that on the 18th of September, the Dante's DSST folks are going to do a presentation. It's a free presentation talking about their tools and how you can use that within your university. Gina Perry does great work. Her team's going to be sharing that information. I'm hoping they're going to give us a little look at the new JST that might be coming out. I got to look at it last week. I think it was last week or the week before. And it's going to change some stuff. I think it's going to make it a little bit better, which is the intent, we would think, of updating it. It'll make it easier for us to use it. All of our meetings that we have had to date are out there now. I did a screenshot of the agendas. So if you're looking for something particular, you can just look at this page and screen through the agenda to see, hey, is this the one that comment was made? You click on the link, it'll take you to the website. Steve, thank you so much for getting those out there. I will add a link where you can see all of the videos in one shot instead of these individual captures. All right. And we'll continue to build that out. The implementation resources, we still continue to work on this. I'm not sure if I told you last week or not, but if you're interested in building an MCPL coordinator position, these are some descriptions that have been used out there. They're all of them are 23, 24 timeline. It'll give you a chance to see how people are making their recommendations. Some of them even have salary recommendations on what the positions are. So just good information sharing that I think will help all of us. Under the general CPL, no big changes there this week. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. We'll add those right in. Under institutional resources, local institutional resources, not only do we have these data points, but we also have some videos, and that's where you're going to find the ambassador talking point. One thing to keep in mind, as you see, while I'm hovering over local institutional resources, the ambassador directory is a subdirectory to this. So you have to click on that. This is a new ad. We see this out here. And if you would just let me know, we can make adjustments to this. I would like to offer a suggestion as we build out this list. Something that we might want to consider is how I've got it set up with the working group members. As you come in here and you see these individuals, the links at below their name go to their LinkedIn site. So if you were to develop a LinkedIn site, then it keeps your information new without us having to update your bio or anything like that. All right. So if you have a LinkedIn site, we could use that on that ambassador directory, and that keeps things really updated. All right. Any questions or comments? And I can't see you guys right now because I'm on screen share. So just speak up.
So perhaps on the talking points, maybe is there a way that we could add like a message board under that? so they could identify their suggested edits and modifications.
That's a great idea.
Because that way the document stays clean, then we take all of those and do what we can with them and incorporate them into it. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, you go ahead and continue with the meeting. I'm going to do some quick looking at stuff.
Okay.
I'll multitask here and be in the meeting, but also doing something else at the same time.
Okay, great. All right. Let's keep moving. So I wanted to share with you some promising practices that we saw that came from when we deep dived into your assessment survey outcomes, in so much as resources and in tools that a few of you shared with us in the assessment survey. University of Southern Indiana does have prior learning page where you can click on different credit for prior learning related products and get started. And then they also have the transfer equivalency self-service portal where the student would go in and just, either create an account or continue without signing in, but they could learn more about what their JST does at that, what it could mean at that institution. So these are just some, online portals that are very easy and it seems very inviting as a student to come in to look at their military component. The next one is Purdue Global. And Allegra, you have a lot of great promising practices. But what I liked about yours is all of you define what all of it is, in a large umbrella. What is a transfer credit? What is credit by examination, experiential credit, and assessment credit? And that is very useful information to the student user as well. And greatly, where some of them, we got confused where some of the colleges on their military pages, it just says transfer credit. It doesn't talk about experiential credit or credit by examination. And how does the student understand that their JST comes back and they only maybe got 20 credits awarded? And they're like, wait a minute, this should come up to, say, the full 45. And so I think allowing the student to understand the different types and the way it can be evaluated and awarded is really a benefit to them to understand the system and not lose them or have them close the door and go to another institution. Another Purdue Global is you've got the credit calculator up here. They can take a look at, they can insert, I'm sorry if you can't see these when I tried to do the screen prints, but this is your calculator where they would put in pieces of their JST and it gives the student an estimate. And then you have your pathways as well as your recommended pathways over here. So if you came in, 17 courses remaining, courses required 53, but if I came in with my military 17, that is so much more palatable to that student and appealing. They're gonna go straight over here and say, apply now, enroll me now. And you see how this presentation of information to the military student means is, especially when many of them are gonna be working full-time, they are adult learners, they're working full-time, they may have family commitments, but 17 courses means I'm gonna complete sooner and I'm also gonna save money. Ivy Tech, you do have all these types of military services, the dual credit, all your types of credits in one, and then you have them hyperlinked over here in this column, which I thought was very useful to them and to their families. And then you've got I think it's 3 pages of your military training and certification crosswalk out there examples, which are really nice. I think, Kelly, you shared with us this morning. You want to share, or was it yesterday that you have it set up where they can request the JST on the student's behalf to allow for automatic review for prior credit? Can you just share, Kelly, circle what that is?
Yeah, actually, it's and Laura, Lori may be able to speak a little bit better, but it's they just check a box when they're authorizing their use of military benefits. They just check a box that authorizes us to go ask for their JST. So it's really helpful and handy for us because we don't have to keep hounding students and we're more experienced in doing that. So it just makes it one less step for that student.
So my question is, are they already enrolled or is this pre-enrollment? When does this take place? When do they fill out this and check a box in their journey, their student experience journey?
I'm gonna let Lori answer that question, make sure I get it right.
So it's once they enroll in their courses and tell us they want to use their VA benefits. This was a very selfish ask because we were getting written up by the VA in our audits that we were not doing everything we could to communicate with a student. They needed to request their JST. So this was our way around that they say yes or no. And if they say no, then at least we have it documented that they didn't want us to do that for them.
So every student then, every military affiliated student does have access to that benefit. And that's something that CHE desires, is to increase access to every military student.
Are you guys just requesting that through the ACE military guide then? The ACE,
yes.
The JFD? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is anybody else doing anything similar, or is asking a student if they're military affiliated already part of their one-on-one as an admissions counselor? I'm real interested to learn how other institutions are doing this so we can increase access. Allegra?
Yeah, so at Purdue Global, students still request their joint services transcript on their own. But if they're using military benefits, they have to have a JST on file. So we have an internal audit, and I see a lot of head nodding. I assume a lot of institutions do it this way, which is the student has to get their transcript to us, but if they don't, we're going to run a report and we're going to go get it for them. So while the student still has the responsibility, kind of from an optics perspective, the student has the responsibility to get us that transcript. If they don't, we're going to go get it for them on their behalf.
Okay. And so my question then back to Lori, is that what VA was? Because you didn't have student permission, or they weren't just being asked,
because
avail the opportunity?
We didn't have the documentation to say we talked to the student in person when we met with them. They needed to request their JST. We have it on our website. We have it in our newsletter. We have it on our checklist, and that wasn't enough. It had to be personally to this student documented that we did talk to them and tell them to do this.
Oh, those federal monitors. It brings me back to another life and another hat. I need evidence that you did do this. Really?
Yes.
Like paper what? So, okay. No self-attestation here. I love it. I back in the day, I helped DOL write the first monitoring guide for WIA, when it was just WIA, not WIOA. WIA was after JST, so JTS. So it was like, oh my goodness. All right, that's really helpful. And so the next one that we found,
I think Ryan had his hand raised.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say the same thing. You guys covered it already, but we do the same thing. If they're a military or veteran student, if we don't have their JST or their CCAF, we have to have it in writing from the student that they don't want to use military transfer credit for their program. We put that in their student file, so it's auditable by the DoD or the VA.
Yeah. Okay. So Indiana Institute of Technology, this is their registrar's page, and they talk extensively, and they have hyperlinks throughout about military transfer credit. They don't call it credit for prior learning, they call it transfer credit. So there is a bit of terminology here, and maybe we come to the consensus that for the military CPL initiative, it is transfer credit. Dallas, I'm going to look to you for guidance. Is that what ACE or do they use them interchangeably? Credit for prior learning and transfer credit?
Okay, my mic's on, great. So they use military transfer credit pretty significantly, calling it CPL. And it is interchangeable. So I don't think there's going to be an issue there. If I heard can you restate the question again? Because like I said, I was multitasking on the
Well,
Google.
just the thought of military transfer credits in, but is there a chance, say they haven't enrolled in college yet, and they're out of the military and they go right into the labor market, and say they're with an accounting firm or a hospital, and they earn employer credits or certificates. So those could transfer in as well, but under credit for prior learning, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
on the Institute of Technology, they have all of this bundled on their page. If you look to the left, transfer agreements, and then they have it bulleted: credit for prior learning, military transfer credits, and consortium resources. So it's a little bit, if you're a military affiliated student, you've got to get to this page, many clicks to get to this page, or do a search. And then I guess I fall under military transfer credit, but hopefully the guidance office says, but you've also worked 3 years at the hospital. Do you have any additional certificates that we could, add? Ryan, you got a question?
I don't have a question. Since this is my school, I can kind of
Yeah.
clarify that.
Okay.
Any military and veteran student that comes in doesn't work with anybody but one of our military and veteran reps. That while the website's there and the information's there, they don't have to go find this themselves. If they indicate they're military and veteran connected, they go to one of my team, and my team takes care of all this for them. And we
Okay.
look at everything from a resume to work skills to certifications to the military transfer credit on the JST or CCAF.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank you
so
for that.
along that same line, Ryan, I'm sure your people probably do this. As our military CPL folks are doing this, they need to have enough knowledge to understand CPL in general to do exactly what you're talking about, Don, because they go, hey, you did this in the military, but you've got this stuff from your current employer. Let's see how these work together. So they have to understand the concepts of CPL general to make either the crosswalk linkage expand, because here's what happens sometime in the civilian sector or in the military sector. Faculty member will look at it and say, yes, this is good learning, but it's not 70 or 80% of what would be on the syllabus as a learning outcome. In the civilian sector, they may do additional work that finishes out that amount to the 70 or 80% that the faculty member is looking for. So it becomes a hybrid recommendation saying, hey, if you did this in the military and you have the extended work in your civilian job and learning, then we can make a credit recommendation by connecting the two.
Okay. Thank you. Thoughts on that?
And that would be a portfolio, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes on promising practices for today. Just want to again put out there September 18th, the capacity building webinars. This is which one is this? Indiana University, developing a military affiliated success center office roundtable. And Ivy Tech and Purdue University are doing. October 16th is the creating a military hub at your institution. Dallas is presenting there. November 20th is military affiliated student resources roundtable. And then December 11th is the CPSI application process. All of these will be, if they're recorded, we will get into that Google site. So if you're not able to attend, you can come back and reference as a resource.
Hey, Don, can I jump in real quick with a?
Yes.
On the 20th, if anyone has resources that they would like to be part of the roundtable and share, please reach out to me. Be more than happy to get you guys involved in one of our lunch and learns. So open invitation.
Great. All right. So this concludes today's meeting. It's been a really robust hour. So this is where we're at. You're going to have some homework. We still need to finish the ambassador talking points. So we'll pose those 2 questions for you to think about it. You've got till between now and next Wednesday to review that. And you'll also with that get guidance from Dallas on how we'll take in those suggestions. So that gives us Wednesday and Thursday to start working on it, massaging it, to build consensus around it on Friday. Be mindful that even though we build consensus around this, in the future, all of these resources are living and breathing and changing, just as all of the initiative parameters and rules and regulations around it change. So it'll continue to take on a life of its own, and be looking forward to future drafts on that. What we have left is any interactive tools, and then we want to finalize with the Google Site repository as well. What are some other things? And I think after next week's meeting, we'll have one more meeting after that. And this is where we'll garner what you were thinking that would be a really good resource tool, or as part of the toolkit that we can further develop for the Clearinghouse 2.0 version as well. Is there anything on here that we haven't, or that you can think of today that needs to be added for a topic for next week? We've got, I believe, the 20th and 27th, our final 2 meetings. We also have to come back with the changes we've made to the implementation guide, and spend a meeting around that with you all, those changes that from your comments from the previous meetings last month in August. Okay.
One thing, I'm just going to throw this out to the group. It would be interesting to know, as we move through the rest of this phase 4, based on this group's intensive focus on these resource development pieces, you know, are we planning on testing them with our institutional audience, and then circling back with any input, you know, beyond this group? Maybe it's just a challenge to this group to be thinking about how we might further refine these materials within the timeframe that we have for this work with TPMA.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, because we do have time allotted for feedback and one-on-one consultation with each of you come December, to garner and do a feedback report on, you know, what we developed here. Was it impactful to your campus and university? So be thinking about, once we finalize the ambassador talking points, will you have time, say next month, to sit down with faculty and staff and present them with the talking points and garner feedback from them? And is that something we could be part of? Dallas and I be part of that meeting that you have, would be helpful with us, so we could, you know, ask some questions as well to test them out. Okay, with that, we will get your homework out to you all. Thank you all. Have a restful, for those of you that's been traveling, a restful weekend. Me, I'm going to go jump on an airplane again. So we'll be seeing you all next Friday. Thank you.